Hello, gang. Tattooed Biker here with you, and I hope you all had a great weekend. It's nice to see you, and I'm glad you're here because this evening I bring you a fascinating and shocking collection of emails from viewers that cover a wide range of true, strange experiences, bizarre encounters, possible conspiracies, and a terrifying, real Bigfoot encounter unlike any that I've ever heard before. How many times have you heard the words D.B. Cooper and Bigfoot in the same true story? Never? Well, stick around, and before this video's over, you will. And if you enjoy this kind of content, get all cozy with that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and then grab your gear because it's time to ride. In this first email, a viewer sends us his true story about a disturbing, unexplained experience in a West Virginia state forest. What really happened to him out there?
Dear Biker, a while ago I came across your channel and was fascinated by the real reports that people sent to you about cryptids as well as the other unexplained things that you talk about. I decided to send you my description of something that happened to me when I was just 14 years old. Every August, my family, aunt, uncle, and cousins would spend a week camping at a state forest in West Virginia. It was a tradition because my grandparents used to do the same thing when they were raising my dad and aunt, except that we were using campers. Back then, we could take our bikes along and go all over the place. In the summer of 1991, my cousins, two other boys, we were all within 3 years of each other, decided to go to an area that we'd never been before. I remember seeing a trail sign that had Sleepy Hollow on it, so I suppose that was the name of the area. Most of the trail was along a small creek, and it was a very thick forest. It was around noon, and it had been overcast all day. We were raised in a rural area, so our parents didn't worry too much about us exploring around the park. There was a group of large rocks near the trail, so we decided to stop and take a look. We were just jabbering when we noticed a loud humming sound coming from above us. We all looked up into the trees and were hit in the face with what I describe as a blast of energy. All I can remember is my cousins yelling at me because, well, I'd been knocked out. I asked them what happened, and they said they were knocked out as well. We started to get scared because, well, everything around us seemed different than before. So we quickly headed back to the campsite. When we got back, my mom asked me why we didn't come back for dinner. I looked at my watch and it was gone. I hadn't even noticed. She told me that it was after 7 p.m. No wonder everything seemed strange out on the trail. We must have been knocked out for around 6 hours. My cousins and I were very tired, so much so that we headed to our bunks right after eating. I was exhausted, but for some reason I couldn't fall asleep. In the morning, I was feeling really sluggish, and my cousins slept in till 11 a.m. Later in the day, we decided to tell our parents what had happened to us out on the trail. To be honest, our parents thought we were playing a stunt by concocting this wild story about being knocked out for 6 hours by a blast of energy. I was really upset with them, especially my dad, because he never let me forget about it. To this day, he still thinks that we made up the story. My cousins and I still talk about what happened that day. We all feel that maybe we were abducted because of some weird dreams that each of us have had since. In 2005, I was diagnosed with leukemia, though I'm now in remission. One of my cousins was recently diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, while my other cousin has suffered kidney disease for over 10 years. We had been 100% healthy before that incident out on the trail. Though we've never seen any scars or marks on our bodies, we truly feel that we were physically and mentally violated by something. Thanks for letting me share. Signed, Sean.
In this next email, a viewer reached out to me about an account that was told to him. The Denver International Airport has been the source of various strange events, rumors, and pretty legitimate conspiracy theories, at least in my opinion, since it was built. I found this email fascinating, and I have a feeling that, well, you will too.
Dear Biker, this is a third-hand account. I wasn't there. I didn't know the person who had this experience. I've no real proof, and I've never been to the area. But when my coworker told me about this account, she was physically shaking while she told me. My health is changing, and I want to get my experiences out there so someone might find use for them. I was told this at around 1991, and I was charged RN of an AIDS HIV 55-bed inpatient unit. One of our nurses had moved to town from Denver, Colorado, and was employed at our facility. Over time, we became friends and talked about our lives. I could tell that she wanted to tell me something for a long time, but I never pushed her. I let her open up to me when she was ready. Now, I had no interest at all in UFOs, but working in this facility, we had all kinds of spirit encounters. The building we were in was an old nursing home. So, speaking about things we saw, that was common with all the staff there. She told me what had happened to her boyfriend in Denver one day, and again over time she was so disturbed about it. He did some kind of construction work. This would have been the late 1980s, and at the time, he was working in the lower levels where the Denver airport would have been at the time. One night, he came home shaken and told her that he had gotten in big trouble at work. He was working in this section which he wasn't allowed to roam around in, but had designated areas that he could only be, and there was security around just to make sure. That day, security was lax, and he had wandered down some hallways, finding other hallways that were absolutely huge, wide, and tall. The doors in the hallway were extremely tall, unusually so, with high door handles, and were difficult to open. One door was slightly ajar, and he went in. It just happened to be a restroom. Rows of stalls just like any restroom, except the toilets there were 6 feet tall. White porcelain like a regular toilet, but absolutely massive in size. He couldn't see the top of the toilet. Across from the stalls was a table, and he had to get against the opposite wall just to see what was on it. There were large faucets and handles. There was a washing sink, but no mirror on the wall. Security suddenly rushed in and grabbed him, taking him back to his designated area and lecturing him that he wasn't supposed to leave his designated spot. That night, he told his girlfriend what had happened, and he was fearful that he was in trouble. Who would need such huge toilets? The next day, they both left for work, and at night, she came home and he wasn't home yet. She never saw him again. His keys, dog, clothing, everything were still at the apartment, but he and his Jeep were missing. Later, that Jeep would be found abandoned on the outskirts of town. He was never found, and his family never heard from him again. And there seemed to be little investigation into his disappearance. She waited at the apartment for a year, hoping that he had returned, but no one ever heard a word from him. She moved and still never heard a word, and neither did any of his family. She would tell me this story again and again, very upset and scared each time. She later moved off, and I lost track of her, but I never forgot her story and how she'd get so upset just telling me. Years later, I heard rumors of things going on under the Denver airport. Who knows what's really happening there, and who in the world could use 6-foot-tall toilets? Signed, Travis.
And finally, in this last email, a Vietnam veteran tells a story that happened way back in 1972, where in southern Washington state, along the Columbian River, he had a close-up, terrifying physical encounter with the legendary Bigfoot.
Hello, biker. I don't know how to start this account, but here it goes. Back in 1972, I had just returned from Vietnam and was stationed with the 3rd Cavalry at Fort Lewis, Washington. I arrived on October 27th, 1971. About a month later, the D.B. Cooper case happened. You know, the guy that jumped from the airplane with some $200,000. Well, in February of 1972, we, the 3rd Cavalry, 3rd Squadron, was assigned to the FBI and taken to the mountains in southern Washington state along the Columbia River. We spent a little over a month searching those mountains for this guy, D. Cooper, aka D.B. Cooper. Well, during the 3rd week, we were around the 6,500 foot to 7,000 foot altitude, searching. And during our search, we found some dead bodies in different states of decomposition at different locations, all within our search area. During the 3rd week, my squad was assigned to the far left side of the line, and we were about 4 to 5 meters apart. It was really foggy that day. We had started to search around 8 a.m. and had been transported to an area around 7,000 feet. I was the squad leader, and during our search that day, I found some strange structures in the forest there. Weird logs that had been placed in very strange positions. Some broken small trees about 4 to 7 inches in diameter, which had been broken at about the 7 or 8 foot high mark. I didn't mention anything because, well, at the time it wasn't relative to our search. Now, we continued searching, moving west along the top of a cliff that was running almost parallel to the Columbia River. It was close to 11 a.m. and it was very cold. The fog had gotten a bit heavier. There was a lot of brush and small trees, from a few feet high to around 12 to 16 feet. Then, there was a moment that I had to walk through some heavy brush, and we got kind of separated to about 5 or 6 meters apart from the next man to my right. As I fought my way through the brush and small trees, I came to a small opening about 20 feet wide, and I couldn't see my right-hand man, but we could talk to each other as I crossed the opening. I noticed to my front left a dark section of vegetation in front of me, but with the fog I couldn't tell what it was, so I just continued. As I approached the dark area, I started to smell something rotten and nasty. I thought it was probably another dead body, and moved closer to take a look, and the closer I got, the stronger the smell became. I moved to the left and started to approach the dark spot when suddenly I noticed it move and step out in front of me. I looked, and that thing was huge. I could see dark brown hair, but didn't see the head until I looked up. When I say up, I mean up. This thing was about 11 to 12 feet tall, and it had a human face. I froze in place and tried to call for my companions, but I was so terrified I couldn't utter a sound. This thing suddenly moved with such speed forward and hit me with one arm, sending me tumbling 10 to 12 feet to the left. I tried to get control of my body, but I was too close to the cliff and ended up falling down some 30 or 40 meters. I screamed as I fell, and I was extremely lucky that the rest of my squad had heard me. It took some 2 hours just to get me up from the lower section. I ended up seriously injured. It damaged my back and my left leg, and I ended up being sent to Fort Lewis, a military hospital, for recovery. Thanks for letting me tell my story while I'm still around. Signed, Don.
And there it is. All the strange experiences and bizarre encounter stories that I have for you this evening. So what did you think about these? As always, I'm anxious to read your thoughts and theories down in the comments below, but please keep it respectful to the witnesses. And if you have a strange experience or an unexplained encounter that you want to share, just send it to the email address in the description, and well, your story may just wind up in a future video. Anyways, thanks for riding with me. Really appreciate you. And until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker out.